Welcome to another Let's Talk Costumes video. I know I've done a number of Let's Talk costume videos in this past few weeks, but hey, let's just talk about some of these. One of these pieces that I have, especially this guy right here, we've talked about lots of different pieces about it up to this point, but one part I haven't talked about specifically is the robe, and I've had a lot of you mention in those video comments that you want to know more about it, so let's talk about that for sure. Now, Anakin's robe was one of those that I really wanted to get right when I first did the costume. It isn't as complex as some of the other robes that he's worn, specifically his episode 2 robe. His episode 2 robe had no sleeves and it had long tabards hanging from the front. It was much more like a cloak cape thing with tabards on it. And it was beautiful, it's amazing. It's still my favorite robe out of the entire prequel trilogy. Actually, probably mostly the entire 7 films at this point. It's one of my favorite. It just has a really cool, iconic silhouette to it. It's really, it's amazing. But when they did episode 3, they decided to go back away from that and go to a more of a typical Jedi robe. And his robe mirrors Obi-Wan's pretty closely. Now in episode 2, different from the episode 1 robes, is they added things like sleeve tucks and overall just shortened up the robe so they didn't drag as much. And Obi-Wan's and Anakin's both reference this. Obi-Wan's in episode 2, and then of course in 3, and then Anakin's in 3 reference the same pattern. So it's a similar pattern that you see in all of the Jedi in the background, barring very minor things. One of the things, most specifically, is the color and the fabric itself for Anakin's was very specific. Now Anakin's was a wool crepe fabric. I may have mentioned in the tunic videos that Anakin's inner tunic was a silk crepe, and it's a type of fabric mix or weave. So it's loose, it's light, it's incredibly thin. But I found a great source, or a great source was actually found, again, thanks to the same people that found the other fabrics, out in California at Be Black & Sons. You can I think you can still get wool crepe, and it's amazing. When this fabric came in, I fell in love with it. The drape is perfect. It's got great detail to it. And of course, then you had to do the pattern. Now the pattern of this entire robe is one of the most simplest patterns you can ever make. A robe typically is bell-shaped. So it comes down like this, comes around, and you have 4 panels of that. So you have your 2 backs and your 2 fronts, and that's that. Then you have your sleeves, which are more triangular type shapes, and you have that. And then of course, then you pull up the tucks, which are like there, and then you have tucks, you stitch it down great. And then you have the hood, which is really just a square piece that is folded in half, trimmed around the corner, trim the corner off rather, and then you stitch that up and you have lined with its own material, and then you have that. So it's a very simple pattern. I can describe it on video here, and it's great. It's one of my most favorite pieces I have of any Jedi costume is this robe. And if you're ever looking for one, there's a number of great places you can get them online. The trick though, honestly, is having good fabric. You may be thinking, oh, well, I can get some sort of polyester blend or whatever, but you need to go with heavier. So wools, suiting fabrics, you can get a lot. One of my very first robes that I've always kind of regret selling was one that was made out of this great wool suiting, and it just had a great drape and thickness and color. And it's just one of those things that, you look back and say, I should have kept that. But that's what you wanted to go. You go with something a little bit heavier with a good texture and good, obviously color, but the good fabric weight. Fabric weight's very important. You can go with a broadcloth or a really thin linen, but it won't have the same effect for the robe you want. It's kind of a cape as it is. There we go. Now, it hasn't been ironed in a while, so I apologize for any wrinkles that you see on it, but I love this thing. I'm gonna do a little bit of close-ups here, obviously, as I normally do, but when you're doing your costume, you wanna have a good robe. You wanna get that good Anakin Sith turn. This is the way to go. 100%, this is the way to go. So if you have any questions about this robe, ask me down in the comments below. I'm happy to answer anything I can. For now though, you will subscribe to my channel. You will check out my Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and you will check out my other videos. Thanks for watching.